all weekend, and we went around and looked at other things besides what was on the code list. And, but we actually, two things actually I realized driving around, and one is, which Leslie already started to work, we need some type of code program. Because I realized, like, we issued a couple violations, then he has to come back to the office, do some more paperwork, so he spends a lot of time in the office because of the paperwork. So, and not only that, there was a couple of houses that we weren't even sure if they were in violation, so he had to come back to the office to find out if it was in our code book, if it wasn't in our code book. Even though I had my code book on my lap and I was trying to look it up as we were there, it's just very difficult to like keep moving. Because we went from, we started at like 9:30 in the morning and we got from Ashwood to Graywood. And that was by 12:30. So there was, and we went house by house by house, up and down every aisle. So we're gonna continue doing that every weekend until we get this all straightened out. So what I suggested was some kind of like, I don't know, like little laptop in his car that he can input it right there and then. And it doesn't have to come back. I mean, something, I don't know. I know there are a couple of code programs. Leslie already looked into it for me. She sent me, we're gonna have a seminar. Print tickets,
so it needs a printer
a violation, something, anything, I'm not quite sure.
Probably buying it as a bundle, they're giving you everything,
Right.
the printer,
Yeah.
the laptop, the whole.
Remember the old days, like police officers just issued written tickets and just set them up.
It's just that, you know, like,
How many tickets did you actually write on
oh, I didn't, I should have
10,
counted,
20?
maybe, well, there was a couple of violations, in order, which is / order remedies.
Okay.
Almost 10 of those. And then the rest were more like parking tickets and stuff, because like, again, like something that we saw, he wanted to come back to the office to look it up, to make sure that it was proper, you know, like he was writing, he had to write.
Can I ask you something? So if you go on Manorhaven website, right?
Right.
And then there's the codes there.
Mhm.
Are those updated?
Yes.
So-
Yes.
Absolutely.
So
The
he
only-
could do that, couldn't
Yeah,
he?
yeah, but this is saving more like the paperwork part. Like when he issued the OTR, if he did it right in the computer, in 2 weeks, it would spit out a report, like, okay, did they fix this? So all the OTRs he sent out, he would now go back to those houses and see if the violations were fixed.
Now, is
Instead of
this a-
manually
Is
putting
this
it
a
in.
code enforcer's
I believe
app?
so. I
That would be
actually,
fabulous.
well, Leslie found one. I found a couple, which I just spoke to I just spoke to the woman this afternoon. It's called Government Pilot. And basically, some of them are just a software you download into the computer and then you manage it from your cell. Others are those monthly fees that you have to pay to keep it, what do you call it, web, I'm not very good at this stuff, but web live, whatever they call it, like you're always live, like your Wi-Fi, whatever, and in the car that's constantly updating.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to figure this out. You want the computer to print out the tickets in the car?
I don't give it printed out, but it has to, it's also, it's not only the matter of writing the tickets and not having enough time. It's also the follow-up portion. In other words, when he gave the OTR, now in 2 weeks, he manually puts
He's
it on
maintaining
his.
all the records in a code book. When he writes a ticket, he comes back and he updates the book, wrote ticket number, blah,
And then when he
blah,
looks,
blah.
and then 2 weeks
For
from
the
that
following.
day, he looks to see what he has to go back to look at.
So it's archaic.
Right,
Very archaic. I think
Very.
you're absolutely right.
very.
And he should have the ability to, because I'm sure he runs into, was I out there, was I in here for this already?
The resident have a copy of the notebook with them?
It is, but it's the whole point, like, we
How many are
issued,
there,
we
really?
issued 4 violations on, at least 4 that I remember. One of them, he has to call the landlord, one of them because he happened to run into the tenant, and she complained about something, so we have to see if we can correct it with the landlord. Like, it's all that little
And you would do it
paperwork
right
stuff.
there?
Yeah, you
call
would
the
like,
landlord?
yeah, you could put everything in the computer
No, but I
system,
meant
it'd
you would
be,
make the phone call.
I don't know
I
the,
wouldn't call it.
no, right, I'm just saying, but
Right.
But maybe
I'm
you could,
suggesting
'cause maybe
it,
you'd have all
and
the-
now I have to look into and research
The
it.
landlord tenant.
Now, the other thing is that you have to have Wi-Fi or something all over the village there.
Yeah,
Is that
whatever.
correct?
No, cellular.
I-
Or so,
yeah,
yeah,
something.
somehow or another, he has to be able to, because
Not
sometimes
not
I
necessarily,
can't.
not
No,
necessarily.
boosters,
No?
and things that you.
I just got a question, I'm sorry. What's the difference if he just adds an OTR onto a regular, like, say, Apple Calendar, And every day he prints out a pay sheet for the inspections that are 2 weeks due.
Because some of these programs, if you look into them, that's why I'm not like that familiar with them. I mean, it goes all the way up into the court. Like, it almost gives a
Oh, okay,
report
yeah,
right
right.
into, all the way to tickets to where it lands to the judge.
Full
That's
history.
great.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
the
it's a whole process where when he writes it, from the time he writes the ticket and enters it into that computer and it spits out, all the way to Nancy.
Do we have enough tickets? I mean, I'll just.
I don't know, I'm still looking into it, just
We have enough
making a
tickets to justify
suggestion,
the
because I
expense of that
noticed
system.
that was a lot of our time. A lot of our time
Well,
was
he
him.
keeps track, I've seen him print out over a sheet.
It's
that
a
he
manual.
prepares. Manually, but, so you know approximately how many tickets he's writing a month.
Right.
So the OTRs, I assume he's gonna go back after 2 weeks and see if it's fixed.
Right.
Mhm.
And then after, if it's not fixed, then he issues the ticket, and then they go to court, whatever that court date is, or they pay it,
I know
whatever the
the
term
cops are
is.
using printers writing the cars these days, and they're printing the.
Even if it's not printed,
tickets.
even if it's done, I'm just trying to get that whole paperwork stuff, because I noticed it's a lot more paperwork for him, that he should be out on the road instead. That was just my observation.
Yeah, you're
I
right.
went out with Kareem for an hour on Friday, because there's some codes that involve some legal issues. and
Yes.
I think he does a good job, Kareem. I mean, he drove around, he showed me all the different problems. And
So he didn't jump off it.
Yeah, so I don't wanna go through every single little thing, because I don't wanna yell at addresses or anything that we went through. We found, of course, Matt gave us a list that we went through, and then we had additional ones. This is a draft copy. This isn't, we look at it, but it's a draft. I have my, oh, I know where it is. It's on my clipboard that I brought with me. So there was a lot of other things that we saw when we were going around. There's my notes. I'm gonna find them somewhere. Oh, and the other thing is, we definitely need to start having like a code committee or whatever you wanna have done, because there's a lot of little things that I realize that he doesn't have control over, because it's not in our code book, or at least I didn't find it in our code book. Like the satellites. You may not think it's a major deal, but a tenant moves in, they put a satellite. Tenant moves out, satellite stays.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Another
Oh,
tenant
yeah.
moves in, another satellite goes up,
Yeah,
in a different spot.
right.
Then they move out, another satellite comes up
I
in
took
the
a
next
picture of
one.
a house one time, that had like 10 on them.
Okay, and now there's one that is attached to a tree out in his front yard.
Ooh.
That you could have, we could have
Right.
the ordinance on.
It was in a tree, it was nailed to a tree
We should
in the
have a
front.
local law on that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so like little things like, you know, as we were going around, there were like little things like that that we noticed.
My understanding from the cops is that drinking in public is not actually in the book.
Really?
It's an ordinance, it's not a code.
It probably is a town of Oyster Bay ordinance.
The town of
Drinking.
Oyster Bay.
Town of
Or
Oyster Bay.
Hempstead, I'm
Right,
sorry.
ordinance.
I know town of Oyster
Well, they
Bay
were-
has it.
Well, they were saying that they can't write tickets for them.
Wow, we should put that in right away
They're
then.
not gonna
Nassau County can't write?
Here's the thing, they're not gonna write village ordinances, Nassau County Police for drinking in public.
Uh,
Not sure.
It has to be a town ordinance, right? Our local ordinance is not, only Kareem can issue the local, right?
I think the cops can.
Yeah, that's
Not
not
that
One of
Yes,
our
they
local
can.
codes?
Yeah,
They can write
they
parking
don't, they
tickets.
choose
Yeah.
not to, but they do.
The reason they
want to.
brought it up to me is because somebody that is chronically gives them a hard time. And they were like, you know, it's one of the, you know, you add them on, add all these things on, and all of a sudden this nuisance becomes something they can actually do something
I'll
about.
tell you what, I've handled a lot of these things on the other side of the aisle. So what I'll do is, I'll get one of the statutes out, and maybe we could emulate it and come up with something. Sound like an idea?
Yeah.
The other one, they said that they can't write on, urinating in public.
No.
Mhm.
God.
Yep, they said they can't.
Because of our local law?
Mhm.
Let's do the same thing, I'll look into,
Yeah.
I can't
Look into
believe
Which I
that.
was stunned, I was like,
Freeport's got one, so,
yeah.
The other thing that, the MAC committee brought to our attention is that the garbage cans, that, Jim, you were there, that, we have an ordinance stating that you put it out after sunset,
Right.
after 5,
Right, right.
and then pulled in, and it has to be labeled and whatever, but it's not in our code book.
Oh, really?
So there's no tickets that can be issued,
do you want something with respect to,
yeah.
garbage cans?
Definitely. Because when we were driving around on Saturday, now, I don't remember what house, but it was in the beginning, so that have to be, they have pickup on Monday and the Thursday,
I mean, how's
right?
a 2-week OTR gonna resolve the issue? You know, 2
Exactly,
weeks to
so
garbage
they
cans
put
in.
garbage out, and the garbage man didn't take it, and it was still out there, and now it's Sunday. and there's still garbage on the curb. Now, what is
Jeff, I
now?
can issue a ticket, I mean, why does he have to issue an OTR or something like that? Why does he just ticket it, if we haven't, an ordinance on it?
He issued, well, they happened to come out and they pulled it back in when they saw, because they saw us driving around, I guess, but, does the ticket, his question was, and I didn't get a chance to look it up yet, does the ticket stick because it's only an ordinance and not a code?
What's the difference?
What's the
Well-
ordinance?
I don't understand
The code,
So, wait a minute, are you saying it's a policy of the?
right, it's a policy and not a code, there we go.
Okay,
That's
so
what-
you can't write on a policy.
Right,
So where are the ordinances written?
It's our code, an ordinance is a law, so it's a local law. An ordinance is synonymous with code.
Oh, right,
Right.
right, okay.
There are town ordinances, county ordinances, state ordinances, and local governments.
so now can you write tickets against an ordinance?
If it's a local one. We
Right,
have
but
to-
it's not,
we
but
can
it's not,
only write
local-
local-
it's not in the code book,
Well, you put it in there.
but that's what my other,
Why isn't it
Where
in
did
the
you
code
find
book?
it?
actually, I don't know, we'd have to, after the meeting, we'll ask Mac, because they're the one who brought it to my attention, and I was trying to find it.
But you have to do
myself.
public hearings on all this, I can
Now,
write the laws.
something
for you.
else, Rita, that drives me crazy is if somebody moves out, let's say on a Friday, right?
Leave all the
And
junk.
they put all their junk out, particularly at Dunes Lane, it seems like they're moving all the time. They put stuff out there and it's piled up there until the garbage people come there on Tuesday. Is there an ordinance or a code against that?
I don't know, I'm looking into that one, I didn't have enough
That's-
time, because the time we had the meeting on Thursday.
Jim, that's my code book while you're, while you're over there.
The other thing is, we found that a lot of cars with no plates in driveways.
Oh, when I lived here, I got tickets on that within 24 hours.
So,
I saw the Toyota, I went over that with them, the newish Toyota from California.
yes,
I think that,
It was abandoned on
we
the
authorized them to have justice removed.
right. But the other thing was, just relating to code again, in our code book, as long as it has a car cover on it,
In the driveway, on
In the
private
driveway.
property, it has to be, yeah.
so,
An appropriate car cover.
right, an appropriate car cover. So,
I assume you saw the blue tarp that was thrown over there.
yes. That's what brought your attention, but there was also another car that was parked in the driveway, and they put their garbage cans in front of it, so you couldn't see that the license plate wasn't there. Swear to God, I didn't believe Kareem, and then we both got out, we went to remove the garbage bales, and there it was, and it had all flat tires. But anyway, his thing is, so you allow the car covers, which can tear, can rip, can blow away due to, weather or whatever. So shouldn't there be like a time limit?
Well, if they are really tight.
I'm just asking for.
There are some that really fit on it very closely, and sometimes they put it on, let's say they have a really expensive car.
Right.
They put it
This-
on all the time.
But this is more like a car, like it's a junk car or more.
Yeah,
It's
that's
more, it's
different.
more like
Probably
a
should
junk
be
car.
different.
Yeah.
Because there was one that did have like I guess they're trying to get rid of it, I don't know, it's not working, maybe they're working on it, but they have this car cover that looked like,
But I just got a question, you're getting in the realm of private property.
right, I
Private
know,
property
that's
rights.
what, that's
So
what.
if I find an old classic car of a barn, want to keep it in my driveway with a proper car cover to restore it someday, and determine in the future, you probably have a real right in that property to do that.
Yeah.
So the old thing is just the appropriate cover, I think brings.
Well, these are just things that I noticed that where my boundary is from code liaison to really changing the codes, there's a very fine line there. Because,
Not really.
well,
What do
because.
you recommend with the changes?
Right, well, because that's what's happening is, like, I'm noticing a lot of things when we're going around, Kareem is telling me a lot of things that he can't do because of it. So really, the codes really need to be updated and
Yeah.
changed, is more or less, and that's like a whole separate
But I think
committee.
that's also ongoing, I think. we should,
Yeah, I
you know,
agree with that.
it's
Oh, yeah,
ongoing all
it's
the
definitely
time.
While we're on codes, Leslie, you have that code packet?
Yeah.
It's
And
absolutely
you
ongoing.
really,
Why
I
don't we
just
just-
wanted to show you the
Right.
difference between what I think you thought it was and what it really is, and I didn't want to make
This
more
was
copies.
the fire, I guess, under.
You had
the,
asked about the review that had been done, and it says amendments to the code that Gene Sellender was hired to do.
Is this,
But
When was
I
that?
just wanna say, this was in,
2009.
right,
Wow.
this was under Meehan's administration.
Right,
So we were all thinking, so I searched for it, it came up at the meeting, about different things that they looked at, proposed regulations for tax rebates to promote installation of alternative.
yeah, but that's not,
This is no, but it doesn't give you what you're talking about now. I just wanted you to know, you asked me
I
where
know,
that
the only
report
thing is, the
was.
one that we got when we were at the work session was a spreadsheet.
Oh, I never
And
saw
it
that
had,
anywhere.
and it had what we have, what other villages have, and what it really should be.
I've
and that's
not
what the
found it
spreadsheet
Which,
was.
anywhere.
which work session? 'Cause
She
I don't
was
remember
touched-
No,
that.
no, no, no,
No.
not now,
I think she was in touch with,
2009.
Oh, in 2009.
But that spreadsheet does not appear anywhere in
That's,
records.
that's
It
the
was-
spreadsheet I had, all right. Because that
Okay.
would really help, because
It would be very helpful.
Because she went through the code book and she listed things that were not
You think
in
we can
there.
find that? You mean, is that possible?
I asked John DeLeo, because I know he keeps everything, so
I'd love
he's
to have a copy
looking,
of that.
he's looking for it. I can't,
That
I
would be
wrote mine
great.
here and I can't find it again.
Missing file.
Missing files.
Want me to call John and ask him?
Yeah, if you can remind him again, I know he's been sick, so I don't think he got into his attic yet to go look through his bins. I know, that's why he had to go look through his attic, but
It's
He-
a spreadsheet, okay.
yes, he knows, because I emailed him and asked him if he could find it, but it was right before the holidays, so. But anyway, so there was a lot of things, that we saw and we did on, over the weekend, and plus, the meeting with Mac, if you wanna continue from that, because I'm going to give them a spreadsheet on all the things that they found, and I'm gonna give them their answers separately, where either I'll email it to them or I can have another meeting with them, because I'd rather not do it at the work session, because then they can't respond, and I'd like
Okay.
to get feedback from it. But the rest of the meeting, Leslie, if you wanna go over things that they handed out and they can review it.
Well, what I had done was, I had emailed copies of all of the things, and I have to say, Mac had done a tremendous amount of work, a tremendous amount of research, and I do have copies here, plus I had sent everybody, an email with all of the attached copies of what they talked about. The main thing, and I think the mayor had said she wanted to really start after Rita's report, talk about one of the things they had put a lot of research into, which is parking. So I think, unless you want me to talk further on that, Mayor, I
It's
think
fine.
that, and I do have some extra copies, so I wasn't sure what you were gonna talk about first, and then I can distribute what you need.
I want to talk about the parking proposal, so, you know, safety's been one of my priorities, and we've installed, since then, can you hear me now, Leslie?
Thank you.
The 3 solar signs. We've also installed stop signs at Cambridge, safety ramps throughout the village, handicap spaces for school buses, stop signs for bus stops, and currently replaced warn signage and still in the process. And of course, it was paid for by CHIPS. In regard to speeding, we've installed radar signs on Cambridge, and I also am happy to announce, thanks to a proactive caring, an initiative of our Manorhaven resident, Adrian Waltman, who's here. We're looking into reducing the speed limit throughout the village to 25 miles per hour. And that's her 20 is Plenty campaign. So I'm just gonna distribute this so we can go over it, because I know we're pressed for time.
Speak here.
Okay, but
Did you say that was on the email, you said that you would have this as a separate meeting, Giovanna?
that's okay, do you have?
I'll share with them. I'm sorry, what was that?
I don't know who said it, was it Leslie or you that said that you'd like to have this as another, just a full work session on parking? Did I get that
We will
email?
have to do something.
Yeah.
We're gonna have
In
to,
order, we're not gonna solve
No.
right.
problems that have been around for years and years, but
Can I just interject here? I think a lot of discussion recently, and probably for years and years and years, has been the famous alternate street.
All right, let me just go through this and then we'll talk.
Oh, okay, good.
So, we have a few proposals in front of us here. So the first proposal is Deputy Mayor's, former Deputy Mayor Steele, on 1/8/15, Sheriff Mayor. It solves doubling of parking spaces throughout most of the winter by enforcing winter parking during snow emergencies. It solves how to notify residents throughout installing electronic signage at gateways using flyers, marquees, websites, and robocalls. It also solves, It also solves the parking signage and creating more flexibility for a street sweeper at no cost to the village. And the second proposal was Max, 121616. It's an extremely comprehensive multi-solution program. It provides specific methods for residents' parking courtesy, literature, easy code lists, highlights notification methods, adds 24-hour code enforcer, gives changes for zoning, give new building requirements, discuss winter parking regulations changed in parking permit programs. And the third proposal was Ken Kraft and Gary Maynard's proposal on 121915 is a very well-researched parking program. It gives concrete solutions and samples, signage for summer park parking problems. It provides all needed facts and figures to set up village parking permit programs along with applications, Excel data spreadsheets, and sample signage. It provides for over $75,000 in revenue for the village. The fourth proposal is yours, Trustee Avina, and 11616 is a recap and overview of most of the issues and solutions previously presented in the last three proposals, and adds the following three suggestions: tax fines for all landlords whose homes have inadequate parking spaces, marking out parking spaces on the curbs for cars to fit in, and requiring double-wide parking space driveways on the side of new constructions, not the front. So, just take a minute and review what you have in front of you. If you have any questions?
Madam Mayor, what we're saying is that the meeting, the public meeting will discuss
You're listening.
all of the parking, alternate street parking, as well as other issues at the open meeting, public hearing.
No, the public hearing we're doing only on the 20th planning. We're discussing this.
Speed limit.
Right.
Okay. So when will we discuss implementation of the alternate street parking?
We could discuss it now. We could also discuss it at the next work session in February.
I think that should be just a whole separate.
I think
That's
so
gonna
too.
be
That's
forever.
gonna be.
That's gonna be
Set
a
something
long
up.
one.
Well, you have to notify the fire department, you
Right,
have
well,
to
we
the
could set
police.
something, we could
I
have a
think
work
we
That's
have-
a
session.
really big one.
That's a big
Well, we
meeting.
could set a work session in February.
I think
Just
we
on
should.
parking
That's
lot.
dedicated to
I think it should
I
be
think we should.
dedicated.
That's
I
fine.
think you get a lot of residents that wanna come and offer their opinion.
I think along with that should be the suggestions of the parking sticker stuff too.
Right.
Should
Yeah,
that
that's
should
a
go
big package.
right
I
with
think that
that.
everything.
It's more of a special meeting of the board, you know, allow
Yeah.
public comment on it.
Why don't we
Right.
have a public meeting on it though?
Right, it can be a public meeting,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
work session.
You mean like a
that we
public
have-
forum type of
A
thing, like we
public
had that
forum,
same
yeah.
thing?
Yeah, it's not really a work
That would-
session.
No.
I would
No,
like that
agree.
better.
Well, we can actually take action at a special meeting, right?
At a special
Yeah, I think
meeting
you
of
can.
the
I think
board,
you
you
can.
can.
Yes.
So we could have a special meeting with a public comment, an extended public comment period, say at the beginning, you know, we present what these are, give people an opportunity, and then we can actually act on it that very day.
Well, here's the thing, you're gonna resolve to do a public hearing to pass a local law, I imagine. So if there's some changes you wanna implement, we need to notice a public law, we have to publish the public law, and we have to do a public hearing on it. So I think what you wanna do, just a
But we can
suggestion.
vote to do that at. that,
Absolutely,
yeah.
you can vote to notice a resolution, you can do a resolution to notice a public law for hearing. And then when we notice it, we'll publish the law and we'll do a hearing on it. I mean, I assume what you want is you want to get a lot of public input and come up with a plan,
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
implement the plan
It's
through
a very
local laws.
emotional issue throughout the village, in terms of what they want to
So
do.
we
It
could,
is.
So let everybody be heard from. That'd be
well, I agree with that, so we could schedule something in February, that's fine.
Perfect.
We're all in agreement.
I agree with that.
Can I just bring something up, because I just noticed, there's somebody in the audience, and I just wanna get everyone's feedback on it. There's, just really quickly, I don't mean to interrupt him, but he's been so kind to, wait until the work session. There's a parking spot on the street on Frowood.
Oh, yes.
Okay. That's very tiny. You guys, I saw you, thank you for coming again, I appreciate it. Kareem and I did this over the weekend. Now, Kareem parked his coal truck, which is a little larger than a normal truck. Of course, we block both driveways. I have an Expedition, which is a little smaller than his.
Good.
I still block both driveways. basically a smart car can fit there.
So what's the solution?
That's what I'm asking you guys, help me here. My solution, this is my solution, I'll tell you what they can't talk, and I apologize, but this is my solution, this is my solution, I
Okay.
discussed it with Kareem,
Okay.
was, opening up the curb cuts to each driveway where they, so they can't park anything there, like, and make it even smaller, so nothing can go there. Because we can't say, Kareem says we can't say no parking anytime right there, in that little tiny space.
Some of it's code, New York State, some
Right.
of it's county. You gotta-
Some of it,
We can't do that?
I don't
we
think
cannot.
Compact cars only?
Compact cars only, he said cannot. I tried that.
Well, we can't
Um,
because there's no.
Handicap?
Do not block
How about
driveway,
handicap?
that doesn't really help them. Do not block driveway doesn't help them because they're gonna block it. So, my only thing was, which I discussed with Kareem, was how about we tell, you make the curb cuts bigger, and then they make that little area smaller, and then nobody can fit there, not even a motorcycle. That's the only thing I
Why
can think
don't
of.
we paint the curb yellow and then put like little lines on it, and people would be very afraid to park there?
I'm not gonna do it.
But I think your
Is it,
suggestion.
we can't put a no parking anytime there? Because
Then what, but what's it?
And then everybody in Manorhaven's gonna want it.
Isn't it?
No, because it's a limited space.
I mean, it's really
We have
tiny. I
the
mean,
exact
guys-
same problem
I-
on,
it-
at
it-
3739 Juniper.
What's that?
Leslie and I were both down there, and Laura's been more
And
than.
your suggestion was spray painting
I
the
just gotta
street and the
s-
curb.
No, just a little.
Jim, a silly
line.
question. When was this parking spot approved by a planning board? Can we just make sure that they follow the plan on it?
Well,
I
it's
know
too
it
late,
is.
let's
It's
solve
not,
this
it's not too
problem.
late, it's not too late.
Yeah,
We only
what I'm
can,
saying
it's
is
the
that
owner.
it's impossible.
Well, let's do one at a time,
It
because
blocks
these poor
their
gentlemen come
driveway
every
morning,
meeting.
and Laura's been approaching this topic for like 4 months,
I have pictures.
almost as much as Jerry has been.
So
in
what,
terms of
I mean,
this
you could put a
floor.
no, you could put a no parking sign there, we'd
Put
have
a
to,
no parking.
Can I
It's
see
a
that?
you?
we have to, we, yes, you can, and we could, but it has to be between certain lines, right?
Yeah,
No parking, from this line.
Literally,
forward to
it's
the
no
cor-
parking from here to here.
yeah, that's what it is down there.
It's two signs, it's probably two signs.
no,
Right.
or no parking between
It's
It's like
driveways.
that.
No parking between driveways, I don't know, whatever's legal, that's what I'm trying to.
Well, I tried to turn an ambulance down in front of that house with a car there, it's impossible.
I have a solution, a fake fire hydrant. It's perfect.
I'm gonna go
Nobody
out,
can
I'm gonna
park
go out
there.
There's
with
a
Kareem.
fire in the fire.
Let me go out with Kareem, I'll tell you what.
But we know
See what
what,
sign I can put up
and
there.
That's great.
his
I
son
have
is
to
the
get back,
chairman of the fire
Green one.
department.
I really have to get back to Laura. She waited like 5
Yeah,
months.
no problem, no problem. I'll have Kareem point it out to me and we'll see.
We
You
know.
have to put up two signs or two
Okay,
signs.
but just remember, 15, my
It's not
Furwood
courthouse.
comes first. Furwood comes first.
3739.
Why can't you do both
We'll
together?
order both signs at the same
Yeah, we'll do
time.
it together, 3739 Juniper and Furwood.
I do have to tell you too, on Saturday afternoon, I took a walk with my dog, and that poor woman that lives in that house, she couldn't get out. I really felt
Which
bad.
one?
I like was hiding, I was so embarrassed.
Which one, Juniper?
On
Oh,
Furwood.
Furwood.
I was really, but I can't find him, I must have given it to Lieutenant Kareem's car, because we went to go, that was our last stop, we went to go
So
look at
it's
that one more
insane
time.
parking?
Yeah.
No parking.
Can you just, can we make it, not to lose the spot, can we make it for motorcycles or
I
something?
was just considering that,
Send motorcycles over.
Motorcycles on.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Bikers, you like
I
bikers?
that.
Allow,
Motorcycles, I'll take
Motorcycle
that.
Mike's scooter.
Hoverboard?
Moped.
No hoverboards, please.
No hoverboards.
I believe this Juniper was, Michael Obrowski had suggested that as well.
Right.
Yeah, maybe we can
For
do that.
motorcycles only,
Right.
and that was the
You-
same solution that he had
You know,
suggested to
every,
the board. I'm
every
sorry to
block,
interrupt you.
I'm sorry, I was just thinking, because I was looking at my notes, I just noticed like every block has a problem like this somewhere. I mean, like, and we'd have to address one by one when they're brought to our
Right.
attention.
If you come around, somebody say, look, we have a problem.
Right,
with this problem,
exactly.
We'll address it,
Um,
but at least we'll have
Maybe a
two
little-
And the
satisfied
other,
residents will be
Right.
happy.
the other problem is too, the way the houses were built at the time when they built those houses, that they don't line up like driveway to driveway. Like when I pull out of my driveway, if I know I can go all the way back, straight back into my neighbor's driveway if I needed to get that tight turn with my truck. They have no space whatsoever. If cars park here and that one little car parks there, she is trapped. It takes her 20 minutes to get out of her driveway.
It's very
Could
funny.
could we have a suggestion box, rather than have a million people get up at one meeting and tell us everything that's wrong with their block? Why don't they do a written suggestion
I
to
said
the
we
board?
appoint one from every block.
We put it up on the
Somebody from
website, we
Ashland,
advertise
somebody
it.
from
We're
Boxwood.
accepting parking
Exactly.
suggestions, we put it up on the sign, everybody says, I got a problem with this spot, I live at this address, And then we can send Kareem out and some might go out if you.
And then long term, let's go to the board, the zoning board and see that they don't do this anymore. Are they?
They've been pretty careful about it,
have
let me
they
tell you,
been careful?
the zoning board has been pretty careful about it.
This, those houses have been there quite some, the one on my block has been there.
Considering they don't prove anything, I don't think.
Okay. They don't,
All right, I'm gonna just go right into the speed limit, so, Mr.
Okay.
Tony, you wanna talk about?
Okay, the
your-
speed limit, under, I think it's 1643 of the VTL, we can't lower the speed limit in the village below 25 miles per hour. There are certain exceptions on, the curvy roads, you see those signs, downhills and things like that. But in our village, for all intents and purposes, the lowest we're gonna be able to go is 25 miles per hour. The way the law is written right now is there's a general statute that says the village speed limit is 30 miles per hour, and there's a reference to a Schedule 7 that indicates certain exceptions, which are 25 miles per hour. So what I did is I wrote a law, and the law is that it basically changes the speed limit to 25 miles per hour, and it eliminates the schedule, because it's now, we don't need to accept any roads at 25, because everything's 25. There may have been some roads in the village that got by at 20 miles an hour.
I think Dunes Lane, when you first come at it,
It
when you
is
come at it, Sands Point.
I don't know if you want to up the speed limit on that, or just want to leave it alone. The issue only comes up, well, we'll talk about it
I
when
would
the
have
issue
20,
comes up in
I would
executive
have
session.
20 all over the village,
The
but.
thing is, it's just not, that Dunes Road, I gotta tell you, it's probably not legal. The speed limit, the only context it's gonna come up with, the speeding tickets issued for anything under 25 miles an hour, and there's a guilty conviction, and there's an appeal. That's the only time that it's gonna be challenged.
And they're the ones that have the speed bumps too.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a good reason,
The
because
sleeping
it's for
policeman.
protection.
Sleeping policeman, and I
If
spoke
they
to.
go faster on a speed bump, they're gonna bother
You know what,
you.
this is a good time to say this,
Did you ever do that, not see one?
lots.
Boom.
what we're gonna need to do is, I spoke to a gentleman at Nassau County Planning Department today, the planning department, and I outlined all the connections from the local roads that we're changing to the county roads. We have 2 county roads, we have Shore Road, and we have, is it Washington Boulevard? Manorhaven Boulevard. So we have to, every road that goes in there, north and south, we have to identify. We also abut 2 villages, Port Washington North and Sands Point, so we have to notify them of the exact roads, and a lot of those roads end in dead ends, but they're within 500 feet of that village, so we have to identify that to the Nassau County Planning Department. And we're also close or abutting town of North Hempstead's Park, so we have to put that in there. I spoke to Sally, who's his name, he's a deputy commissioner, and he's expecting my proposed law and my letter tomorrow, and that'll go before the planning board within 30 days.
Good.
So, once the planning board approves it, we can schedule we're gonna have to do a resolution to do a public hearing.
Right.
We'll do the resolution, you're gonna have a lot of people talk for and against, I think, on a 25 mile. And then you'll have to decide whether you pass it or not.
I also just wanna thank Adrian again, just for all her hard work and.
Yes.
Good job, Adrian.
What was that, we're not saying 20 is plenty, we're saying 25 is.
25, 20 is
20 is
plenty.
plenty.
20 is
20
plenty,
apostrophe
okay.
of S, because it's within the 20s.
Oh, 20.
But 20 is plenty, 20 is plenty.
I got it.
Okay.
Can you just, there was one more thing that,
Go ahead.
on Shore Road, the arrow signs on that, the left arrow sign for, on the ground, to go into Manorhaven Boulevard or to go straight, and the other one to go straight from Manorhaven Boulevard, I mean Sands Point Road, well, the left one is fading. And I think we need a sign up by the light, like they just started over there by Dunkin' Donuts by, the steakhouse, where it says this lane only turns left and this lane you stay straight only, because, I almost killed somebody today,
You might want to run real quick about the board.
because it went straight, I'm not done,
Oh, I'm sorry.
me first. I'm kidding. Because, people that are in the left lane are trying to go straight while I'm in the right lane, and they're going straight at the same
I
time.
think we have to also do that by a law that the board
Everything
has
in
to
the traffic
have.
has to be a little.
Right.
Everything.
Well, that's what I'm saying, I didn't know if that also includes with your Nassau County thingy, so that we can do
To
that,
incorporate.
right, incorporate all
We'll get
into,
all the issues together and then we'll,
right. I just was
Right.
mentioning it
That's
because
interesting.
I wasn't the only one, there was a few people on Facebook that contacted me and asked me if there's anything that we could do, because they had contacted Nassau County and they just blew them off.
So if you can get all of you,
Yeah.
see something like that, get that to me, I'll put together a list. I just have a question for you. Does this mean that we're setting a date for the public hearing at the January 21st
Yes.
meeting
Yes.
for February?
Yes,
And
20.
within that time, it can go concurrently?
Right, and
Okay,
if
so-
planning board, listen, the way the Nassau County works is if they don't sign off on it in 30 days after receipt, then it's deemed approved.
Okay, so we're
But-
setting a date at the next meeting.
But we need
for
to
the
sign this
public
agreement
hearing
with
in
Nassau
February.
County, we need to sign a streamlining agreement with them. I'll prepare a resolution on it, but we need to do this right away. It puts them into that 30-day category. And
Okay,
it also, it gives the planning board and the BZA a break on certain items.
Is that like an IMA?
It's not an IMA, it just means we have an understanding with them, that if they don't approve it in 30 days, we get to immediately do what we want with it. So it helps us a lot, it helps us streamline these applications with the planning board. We don't have a streamlining agreement with them now, every other village has it.
Isn't this what you wanted to go over? Is this the one that you wanted to go over?
No.
But the, got something different? Okay.
This, I'm gonna recommend the
So
mayor
this
signs
lasts
this.
for how long?
This is what you
It's
saw
5
about
years,
last.
yeah, no, well, this is, yeah, one of the items. We need to streamline it, it's just, every village has this. I spoke to Brian Stilar, who represents Seacliff, and it's very helpful for the planning board and the BZA, because you don't have to ask Nassau, it's what, an automatic 30-day refusal. So you send it to them, and certain items you don't have to get a refusal, you can just do it. So it works for us really well. I'm gonna do a resolution, I don't think we need it, but I think with
Might
just a
as
show of
well.
hands, I'd like the mayor to sign it, because I need to submit it with the 20 is plenty proposal.
Yeah.
Would that be okay?
Yeah, so I,
Aye.
Yep.
Okay, and I'll have a formal resolution done for the board meeting.
Good.
I wanna move on to,
sorry.
we have the forward wall, issue.
Yes.
Just wanna make it clear, there's no file missing.
there's no, I
I
have a
don't know
whole
where
file.
this
have the
misunderstanding.
I have a whole file
There's
on forward
no,
wall.
I don't know where this misunderstanding
We
came
were
from.
looking for the
Okay,
file.
well, let me just tell you, we do have estimates, Leslie was able
Okay.
to,
But who is responsible?
locate the file. Wait, me first.
Go sign it.
Leslie was able to locate the file,
Oh, good.
and we do have estimates, but they're a year old, so
Only 1 year?
I believe they're a year
Well,
old.
Only 1 year old?
I did not pull, I didn't pull that file, it's still
It'll
on
have
my
to be
desk,
more than
and
that,
I can
because
go
I
and
don't
get
remember.
So
it.
these are estimates to repair the wall.
But yes, and I
And who would
believe that
be
one of them
paying for
was
that?
from D&B,
And I think there's also.
well, we're gonna need to discuss that, because again, there's a few parties involved, so we'll discuss that further in, I guess, executive session. But, we have one from D&B, I don't recall.
And then there were several other estimates that were given,
Right,
so we
from other
really do.
companies, I'm not really,
Right.
Yeah, D&B was requested to do it September 16, 2013. That's when they were requested to do it.
What month, 2013?
And
That
Uh,
sounds right, I can,
DeViker and Bartolucci,
Dverka, right.
how do you say that?
Dverka. It's
DeVerka
not
and
easy to
Bartolucci looked at it on May of 2013.
And that's where I have a lot of things that are in that
You
I
want
file.
believe that, that's fine, you wanna read it with me? There was also another architect, I don't recall his name, another company.
And I also have all of this that you can have. This is the lot block and section number. And I think that this involves more than one person. I think it's
It is.
three
Right,
people.
it does. what she
There's three
said.
parties, but we'll
Three
discuss that in
parties.
executive session, I don't want it mentioned on camera,
Right.
or,
No, because there's also something else I need to discuss
We'll do
with
it
that
in
wall too.
camera.
So I think I have to do executive session, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to stay that long.
Why do we do it in executive session?
Because the legality.
The legality,
Ah,
right?
okay.
right.
Okay.
Okay.
But I know there was an issue last
didn't know
time
that.
that
Yeah.
something happened,
Okay.
and
You're
I
right.
didn't go there.
They're on the
Good.
third floor.
So, we resolved that, we resolved the speeding issue. Now, the paying off of the dam, Leslie? Okay. I know that it's due on 2/23/16.
It's due on February 23rd.
But
We
I'm sorry, I
have
didn't hear what.
I didn't either. What do
We
we
have
have?
a
Okay, a ban is a,
bond
Bond.
anticipatory
No.
note.
I thought she said the ban.
Does everybody,
Yeah,
does everybody know what it is?
yeah.
It's
No. Oh,
a
bond.
revenue, it's a revenue
Due
anticipation note,
2/23/16.
anticipating tax revenue,
Right.
the bond is issued. Now, was this budgeted, the payment of this?
Yes,
it was.
So that's,
so,
from
So the
practical
question
standpoint,
is,
should we
do we, right,
Do we need
and
it?
Jim, no, we owe the money,
No, we have
we
to
borrowed
pay.
it last year.
Oh, I thought it was for this year.
No,
No.
we borrowed the money, go ahead, Jim,
I'm
you
sorry.
know about it, no, I sent it
It's February
to you.
28th, it's due, it's upon anticipation of 1.5%, $270,000.
right.
So it's a revenue, you know, you got the revenue, you put it in the budget.
Yeah, well, I think it was in the budget, I'm not 100% sure, but
Is it 100% in the budget?
It was in the budget.
So, I mean, to roll these things over, you just gonna start accumulating debt. I mean, if it's budgeted, why not?
we
Here
had
it
to pay
is,
it down,
Pay
yeah.
it off.
here it is.
Which I want to come up with a $2 million bond.
Here's
Right.
our, this is our budget,
Okay, we got it. Perfect.
I'm just gonna say as counsel, that if it's budgeted, if it's budgeted to be paid off, it's a short-term revenue anticipation
Right.
note. We don't, you borrow so it
Do
gets
we need a
revenue
resident to pay
receiving.
this?
No,
No.
no, this is the terms and conditions of the bond.
Right,
Now,
understood.
why do we call judgments and claims? Claims on
It's-
revenue?
I don't know why the accountant calls it that, but it probably is a,
Claim on revenue?
it is definitely a liability.
Well, I don't know why
What they're labeling it as.
Yeah, I don't know why, okay, I'll ask.
I guess, I don't have a vote here, but if it's a liability and it was budgeted and it's
No, we
budgeted to
do
be
it.
paid,
You have to.
you're either gonna roll it over and continue debt and spend the money on something else, or you have it budgeted, it's an easy one.
Pay it down.
Okay.
Definitely
We
pay
don't
it.
want
I
to
think
short
that
term
does
paper.
a good job too for our credit rating.
Yeah,
And
Sure it
shows-
does.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so I think that's and I will, take
There you
care of
go.
that. Yep.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Covered everything I wanted.
Can I-
So we went into
oh,
executive
sorry.
session.
I had a couple of things. Yes, I do.
Is this regarding her, I guess,
Oh,
Priscilla
I'm
had set an
sorry.
agenda, is that what you're?
No, I just want to bring up a couple of bigger issues, I think. One is the Port Police, and I did receive the number. It's a matter of public record, so I won't be disclosing anything that people couldn't find. I'd almost like to have everybody guess what the number is.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I believe it.
the police, the taxes for the county pay the Nassau County Police Department. But there are two taxes. One is for headquarters, which every village.
I just got my
whether you-
tax bill today.
Whether you have a police force or not. So even people at Sands Point, which have their own police force, would have to pay the headquarters tax.
Everybody does. that I know.
Everybody pays. And then there's the patrolling tax.
Mhm.
So our tax.
There's 3 taxes on my tax bill.
Yeah, the other one's administration, can't get rid of that. This
Okay.
is patrolling. So the patrol tax comes to, every resident pays their share, $1,949,000 for the year. Yeah, it's gonna round it to 2 million. And that comes to a single-family home, each resident would pay $802. A two-family house would be $932. So the number, and I've spoken about this before, and I have preliminary discussions with 2 of the commissioners, Dave Frankel and Mullins, and they're both in favor. They said they'd certainly be willing to
Dave
talk
Franklin
about it.
and Andrea Mullins?
Yeah, and they said.
Angela.
Angela. I'm
Commissioners.
sorry. The
Angela.
commissioner of
What did I
police.
say, Angela?
I probably said it wrong. In my discussions with the chief, Chief Salerno,
Right.
he was somewhat negative. One of the deputies was very positive, and the other deputy was neutral. But it's all gonna be a numbers game,
Right.
because now that.
But who basically, the commissioners basically
Yes,
decide?
Yes, but the police chief will have to do all of it.
Right.
So if we're on the same page, are you talking about switching over?
Yes.
to Washington?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, the opposition in the past to this has come from the concern on the part of
Of
the
voting
current.
rights, they didn't.
Yeah,
want
they
to-
didn't want to dilute their
Well,
voting.
Well, let me interrupt you a second, Kev. I brought that up, and everything is on the table. We're gonna ask them to do is put together a proposal with, obviously, the economics laid out, as well as what the contract would look like.
Jim, is it a pure contract, or are you gonna be responsible for pensions and retirements down the
That all
road?
comes from the police, that's the
So
all part of the contract.
if the village decides they don't wanna go with this in 2 years, we're not gonna pay some prorated share of an obligation into perpetuity, that we have to pay a percentage of their retirement benefits.
No,
Because I think one of the greatest costs of villages
it's pension.
is these pension obligations of these police departments, and I think in contemplating a switch, we really have to look at those.
We're gonna look at everything, they're gonna have to
What do you
lay
call them,
out.
Leslie, the mandatories, what do we call
When
them?
is their, when do they start formulating their budget? What's their budget year? It's not January to January.
No, it's, I think it's actually, I wanna say October.
So, okay,
We'll
so,
check.
Right.
Just, Ken Kraft has asked me to, he'd like to be involved, which is fine by me. He's a former
I would like to
police officer.
suggest that if Ken's willing, I mean, I.
He said he would, right?
Well, wait, I just want to suggest that he be a co-commissioner with Matt Schiller with emergency management and be a liaison.
Well, we're just gonna
to the
start
board.
preliminary discussion. So before we get formalized, I'll bring Ken along, I'll meet with the commissioners, talk to the police chief again, and then we'll see how we wanna structure it. This will just be a fact-finding mission, and then we'll come back to the board and say, this is what we found, and how do we proceed? Which I think is the first step in making this work or not work. I mean, if it's not cost effective, and we don't feel comfortable from a liability standpoint or a safety standpoint, then we wrote it down. Right.
Financial, right, financial.
Financial is a very big consideration, that's why it was important for me to get the 1,949,000, because I didn't know what, I couldn't guess, I wouldn't guess what the cost was.
But the 1940 is that's the Nassau County budget?
Yeah.
So, but what
What
would
they
be,
charged us.
so would that be getting shifted out of Nassau County
Yeah.
and put into a village budget?
Exactly.
Yeah, so in other words, instead of you as a homeowner paying $802
Mhm.
as part of your county taxes, it would be part of your village tax.
Right, so
Right.
in essence, as a board, you would be in a position where you're raising taxes.
And you're lowering.
And they're getting it lowered from Nassau County,
Net,
same amount.
Yeah.
same.
You're
It's
gonna-
even one way.
Well, it'd have to
Let's see if that- let's see if that works.
I'm not
Let's see
sure
if that
what the
works.
2% tax.
Yeah.
These
Well, I think
Documented
the
reductions never
people.
Well, this is all just preliminary.
It
We have
also
to sit
depends
down
on the
and
level of
discuss it.
service that they're gonna provide,
Yeah.
Right,
which is gotta be
yes.
written in the proposal, so, right now, we don't know enough to say yea or nay to anything.
What
We
I'm
can't
just-
take it before the public until we know what
Yeah, I
what all
think-
the facts are.
So-
The first step was for me to get the number, what it is. And that's the number, and I did some preliminary discussions with the commissioners as well as the police hierarchy, and everybody has an open mind to it.
Well, that's
So it'll
good,
take-
because
it'll take 6
in the
months
previous
to get under
administration,
it.
we've sent letters of intent and to set up a
Can't do it.
meeting, and they never answered.
No, it's good, I
So this is the
understand the
right,
history.
this is a good direction, you know, like at
Okay.
least they're talking to us, and we can find out some information.
Yeah, and, we'll take it from there. It may not work. I think the residents, the people I've spoken to would like to see it happen. So you'll get to know your local police officers. But we're gonna discuss, that's a whole different discussion.
Yes.
So let's get the numbers, let's talk to the right people, and then we'll take it from there. The other thing I'd like to bring up is, capital improvements. I think that, the time has come where we have to spend some serious money on improving the roads, sewers,
Sewers.
and it's an important part of us providing a service to the residents. So we're working on quality of life through the code. I think the streets and obviously the sewer are very important issues. So, what I'd like to do is propose that we, the board, approve hiring a consulting firm, an engineering consulting firm, to take a look at the infrastructure and give us an idea as to how much money we'd have to spend to get it done,
I
each
just
part of it.
want to let you, I don't know if you're aware, but I believe we met with them last year, and it was D&B.
Yeah, you're right.
And they already did take a look at the infrastructure. We're still waiting to hear back from them. That was one, and there was something else I wanted to mention now that you're bringing up the sewers, is that there's an issue, it seems to be
Graywood.
reoccurring on Graywood and
I know.
Manningham
So that's
Boulevard.
always been,
It's always true.
So my suggestion was, because it costs the village $1,500 each time the camera, why doesn't the village purchase the camera? And Krista, who's qualified and worked for the Fort Washington Sewer District, is capable of cameraing the lines in the future, if we suspect a break or there's a backup. So that was one thing, I definitely think that we should look into purchasing.
Maybe we should take,
ourselves.
yeah, okay, that's
You
certainly.
have an idea how
Well
much
worth
these things
it.
cost?
$1,500.
So-
No, the
No.
camera's not 1,500.
Yes, Chris and I went over it.
Oh, it is? That's the
Yes.
cost.
So
I
the cost
thought
of
that
one
was the
camera,
cost for
you gotta do
one
the
camera.
Right, but it has been in the past that we were charged, I believe, well, I gotta look again, but I believe it was between 1,500 and 1,900, just a camera by an outside.
Right, and that's, and we can get a camera for
We can
15?
purchase a
I'll
camera,
look
Chris
into
was
it.
looking into cameras.
Okay.
Okay,
That
so,
were $1,500, so I think it's,
so that would help just, basically just that one
to
area.
determine where
What
the
I'm
breaks
looking
are
at-
in the event we have this issue again. I mean, it saves us money, and I think it's a great,
I think it's a good idea. I'm just talking about long term.
right,
I think
Oh,
we
yeah.
should
right.
reapproach them,
Well,
say,
we did
please
meet
give
with
us.
D&B, and I don't mean to interrupt you again, well, we did, and we were discussing possibly sleeving the force mains, there were different
Yeah,
options.
But I think we should put it on the table.
Right, we
and
should meet with
then-
them again, I
And
agree.
then say, okay, let's borrow $2 million. Let's take a bond out for $2 million. Whatever the number is, to show ourselves, to show the residents, we're working on the infrastructure, because it's crumbling. And it's all part of the problems of this village. It's unsightly, it's horrible.
Jim,
So
let me just
We've
add
done
to
extensive
that.
work to the infrastructure, there was a conversation from.
No,
what
I'm
was
talking about the
happening.
roads.
And I understand the roads.
The roads are in disrepair, there's no
In
question
meeting
about
with
it.
TNT last year, I said to them, can you tell us which road, that's when we came up with Cambridge, what
Right,
we should
right.
do first. But they said, if you're gonna do a full study, which they have not done, I can get you an estimate to do a
That's-
full study
that's
of
right.
all the
Yeah,
roads.
can we
That
do
we've
that?
not done, but
That's
I
what
will
we
get
need.
an estimate,
Can we also ask them to give us an estimate on the force main?
Yeah,
sure.
Because that's another huge ticket item.
It's a very big item.
Is it possible you could ask a number of different engineering firms, maybe
Well,
some
let's
you haven't
start
used
with
before?
Yeah.
I think you might wanna
Yeah.
switch up the engineers a little
Sure.
bit.
that's no problem.
That's fine.
Maybe
So I
some,
think, I think we
need a meeting
want
set
3
aside.
estimates. I think we want an estimate on the roads, I think we want an estimate on the force main, and I think we want an estimate on the rest of the residential sewer connection.
Right.
All of the other
You know, that's
plumbing.
interesting,
And I think we do need to get at least, I mean, DMV's been with us, let them quote on it, but let's get at least 2 other qualified firms to.
think you should.
DMV has been with us for so long, like, they basically they knew where the problem areas were,
We
and
also
that's
work
why we.
with
We'll
sewer
start with DMV,
districts,
and then we'll
so
open it up.
they
Right, no, I'm
know
just
a
saying,
lot.
that's why, don't think we just picked them out of the hat. The reason why we constantly used them was because they worked with the sewer district, they worked with the village since before I was in, I've heard that name. So it's not like something we picked out of the hat, they know the infrastructure a little bit, they're a little
Well,
more familiar.
While we're
I'm
talking,
suggesting you switch it up a little bit.
Okay.
I-
No, no, I'm
I'm not
just
saying
saying-
I'm not gonna
we have
identify any
several
problems.
really
but-
good engineers in
Alright.
the area, and we can find out what
On,
that
on
would
improving,
cost.
on improving the infrastructure, I was, the mayor stated as to who responsible as a liaison, one of mine is budget. I think it's particularly important that in the upcoming budget, we try to budget so that we could pick up $300,000 to $400,000 surplus to use towards this capital improvement plan. In other words, we budget basically 0 expenses match revenue, and we have 0. But I think we should take a look at every one of our budget lines, which I hope to do with the accountants, and say, okay, what do we really need? What can we eliminate? What can we add to make the budget? So at the end of the year, we have $300,000 to $400,000
And
surplus
if we
budget.
keep it tight, and what, as I did this year when I was working with the accountants, don't forget that we have enough money to pay the $270,000
Right,
demand
of
act.
course.
So I think we're gonna be in that ballpark, so I don't,
That's,
I'm
well,
hoping.
I just
I
This
don't
year,
know
this year's a
what to do.
heavy revenue year because of the inflows from the rental registrations. We
Yeah,
have,
this
we
is
have
the
a few
heavy-
hundred
That's why
thousand
we
dollars more.
can pay that,
We're gonna have
that's
a
true,
decline next year.
that's true.
Jim, what you're saying, I think, is just a suggestion. And we had a conversation on the phone about this. Find out what you're asking for a proposal. And if it is a $2 million bond, then I guess the budgetary issue is what's the debt service on that bond?
Exactly.
Well,
So
probably
if
4%.
it's $60,000
But that's
a year, then we gotta budget in 60. The 300, you're gonna have to raise taxes. From my knowledge of it, you're gonna have to
Well,
raise
right now,
taxes.
all we can do is throw darts, because we
Yeah.
don't know what it's gonna cost, because we don't have the estimates. So I think the step one is get the estimates, let's get some bids from
And then to
different
go through a
engineering firms.
budget,
Right.
like you suggest, I mean, obviously, if we're thinking about a $2 million bond, we're gonna have to cut budget for just 50,000 a year, or in interest, or 60,000, whatever the number is.
And there's gotta be a lot of accountability to how the money's spent,
Of course
because
it does.
there is some anecdotal evidence of no bond that we're still paying. And for the life of anyone who's present in the village, we don't know where that money was spent. The sewer, up
So I
there.
saw that, 2008.
There it is, and there are no records, unfortunately, other than the schedule of what we need to pay off every year for annual debt service. So it's very unfortunate
There are no
that,
records that indicate meetings?
Destroyed.
no,
I just wanted to
So,
clarify.
they're
that.
not there. I do want to bring something up that I could use some help with, and again,
I'm
it's
sure
not
it
in
didn't
the
disappear, don't say
records.
this makes it sound like
No, no,
somebody
no,
walked out the door and
Dave,
then.
read it.
Look, we don't know where it is.
Well, that's part of that's when I first came in, so that I'm trying now, I'm racking my brain trying to think what we did.
I have one question, again,
Nobody
having,
seems to remember.
having not been in the village that long. As you know, every year I bill back the school district for the use of our sewer system, and they put,
Right.
I do not for the life of me understand why, and I've looked, and maybe somebody knows where to look for this information. Manorhaven Park, which is a town park,
Don't even go
is on
there.
the sewer. Do you know,
I had a
Rita?
huge fight with John Caven on this.
And we're seeing the inflows when they drain
John,
the pools and things like
We knew
that.
that.
Originally,
because actually
originally,
it was
we
brought
billed
up-
them,
it was
yes,
brought up
we
at
originally,
the
we
meeting.
billed them a certain amount of percentage of what they were
Right.
using, what we thought it was. Well, I guess, Capozzi had an agreement, who was with before he came in, I forgot. Maymer, thank you, had a handshake. Well, when Capozzi left and came in, this whole thing started. He put a water meter on the pool. So he was saying, your bill, I think he owed us like $60-something thousand dollars.
Who reads the meter? We're not
I
reading it.
have no idea. Yeah.
I mean, I think we'll happily bill it to the meter.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
don't
the
we
meter
still
back
get-
there, on how
Well,
much
don't we
they go
bill them for
out.
the meter? For the
Right,
water?
well, that's, I got out of my hand because
I
I got
haven't
kicked out of
billed
the
them
meeting.
anything since I'm here, so this is the first I'm hearing that they
You're
have a
talking about
meter.
outflow though, when they drain the
I'm
pools?
talking
or-
about outflow, I'm talking
Oh,
about
we're talking
when
about, okay.
summer
They're
season,
not
when
using our
they're
water, I don't
using.
think, are they?
I'm talking about, no, I'm talking about the sewer system,
Okay.
which is water pollution control
Right.
district.
Because what they do is they
Yeah.
kind of, they filter it and they do something to it where it doesn't come out, where they have a chlorine and all that other stuff to it.
Yeah, so-
That's what they were talking
So where
about.
are they putting it?
I think back in the bay.
No.
Also, it's not
I
even going
think
through our
that's the
sewers at
thing.
all.
I don't
No,
know.
we see it, we see their flows,
That's
when they drain their
right.
pools, we see those
But it
million
goes,
gallon
no,
flows.
but the way
On
their
the days they
pipes
do
are
it.
set up, no, don't get me wrong, I'm just remembering, like, so this was way back when, I got kicked out of the meeting and I had nothing to do with it anymore, but it was something where they filtered, I got kicked out. There's something that got filtered and it goes one way and then it goes the other way into.
Brita filter.
Right, it goes, no, it goes one way this way. Stop it, you guys, making fun of me. Let me turn off that camera while they're making fun of me.
You can go on YouTube.
Yeah, thanks. But it had something to do with, they owed us over like $60-something thousand, and then, Mr. Terry and Meehan went and made an arrangement with John Kamen and knocked down what they owed us.
So they paid then,
They
but they
paid,
haven't paid since.
right. Now, that I don't know. I don't know if there was some kind of agreement that they made afterwards. I don't know. I lost track of that whole thing, because I was, getting on the town of North Hempstead to get that whole 60,000. I wanted the whole, everything.
So
I wanted
why
everything
don't
that
we
they owed
set up
us.
a meeting with Bosworth and,
So you have to figure out from where it went from there. but it has to
I'd
do-
like to sit with Judy and, Bosworth.
It goes back, way back when.
Well, you can reconstruct the board.
Yeah. But once they started putting the meter on, they were saying that they don't even owe us like $1,000, not even. That's exactly
Okay,
what
so
they
we
were
wanna
saying.
know where their water is going?
Yeah,
Well, we see it on our reports.
yes.
Right.
We see
We
it
know
that
when they
September
drain their
thing.
pools, we see these huge outflows into our system, and which we pay for.
Right.
One minor administrative thing I'd like to bring up, and that's the court reporter at the DOT meetings. I think we
We
should.
canceled them.
I know, but I think we should have one. The expenses, if you ask for a copy, to have the court reporter there is only about $250 for the night, right?
Why do you
$300.
feel we need
Well,
one?
just in case something, we have to go back to the record, that's the
But we
official
have
one.
Leslie taking
We
notes.
always-
I
If she
think
takes
that-
notes is different than actually having it recorded. I think for.
I
Let
think-
let me just state this, we're not ordering him anymore for BOT meetings
I
unless
think
there's a public
it's-
hearing.
Right.
And if there's a public
Why?
hearing, the minutes will be.
That's what it always been.
It was very contentious, do we need it at every board meeting? Do you-
No, we
New
never
York
had
State
a
law
court.
does not
Does not
require
require
a
it.
court
We
reporter,
only
we
have
did it only
DOT.
because it was very
Very
contentious.
Right, I think that Leslie's notes are.
Well, I got
So, I know
it,
you
it's impossible, it's
Jim, let me
impossible
ask you a
to get them
question.
exactly right, yes.
The meetings at some point have to be recorded, they have to be recorded, so we're gonna have to start doing
Yeah.
Well,
the
that's
cameras.
exactly what we're
We gotta
saying,
talk
so
about
let's
it.
get the recorder in here.
Stenographers, $3 a page. I mean,
No, if you wanna
Well,
print
then-
out,
Yeah.
but not if you
Right, so
don't.
you're, okay, so we'll look into it.
It's very
What
hard,
about
really.
recording
We'll
and having
revisit
a
this
video
again.
or audio?
I don't think you need it, we never
rather-
did it before, but I just did it because you.
He's saying he would rather a stenographer, so. we'll just-
You can
No,
always-
I'd rather have it on video, if you get an independent
Well,
party.
by
it's a
law now,
video.
we have
You
to.
have to do it, so while
A
we do,
recording, doesn't
Recording.
specify.
Yeah.
If you wanna
Maybe audio
record it done at
or-
every meeting, and you want the minutes, it's gonna be costly, but
I
just do a
understand,
resolution.
Jim, I'm saying if we needed the minutes, it would be costly. To have it
He does them anyway,
recorded-
I don't think so. I think he does them as a matter, this guy,
We tell
Moffett,
them not to.
types them up every time, doesn't he?
Yes.
I
How
don't
much
think
does
that-
it cost us then?
I'll
Every
go back
time.
and I'll put down.
If we ever need the
We're not
minutes,
ordering
we just
anymore.
ask them
This is a public
to.
hearing.
No,
Print them.
minutes are minutes,
So
the
then he
New York
doesn't print
State
them out
law
every time.
Well, he's not
does
doing it
not
anymore.
recommend
We're not
we
having
have
it.
verbatim
He has done them every time.
transcripts of every meetings.
The New York State law
New
says
York
that?
State does not recommend You have verbatim, I'll look up the.
But they are requiring that we have to video or.
Yeah, we have to,
record
I
it.
have to research the law on it.
Audio.
I think the audio, video, whatever.
It's starting January first, it was the new thing, the law is that we have to have a video.
Video
got
tape.
one.
And it has to be,
I have
well,
it.
that's ours.
You don't want us to use it because you feel we're fudging with the,
Okay.
Yeah.
but
We're not gonna, listen, we're not getting into that. I
But-
don't think it's specified if it was audio or video, so.
Did you
we'll
ever
talk
speak
about
with
this
Cable
further.
Bill?
when you
I
on
did.
YouTube.
Mr.
What
Chairman,
did
will
they
you
say?
please?
I
give
spoke to
us-
Yes, I will.
Okay, let's look up the law.
Okay,
Because
I'll
I
get
saw
back
it.
to us, get back to us on.
Leslie, we talked about this last time, and Leslie was gonna talk to Cablevision.
And I did, I want to just report since the
Mhm.
conversation is open now.
just
I
wanna
called
get
Jeff
that
Clark.
on.
He said we have a number of possibilities, but the equipment and buying the time, having the time even on the public station gets very expensive because when we're not showing our meeting, we have to have some kind of programming, so we're gonna have to pay for programming. And what he said at the bottom line was that really what we should do is stream it on the computer, stream it live and record it that way. And I will tell you that if we're gonna take time to do that, I wanna present to the board several different programs, it's not one company, to be able to fast forward to item number 4, and you can see it live, and you can see the.
Lindsay, can I make a suggestion? I've seen the absolute perfect setup, and it came up in the litigation in the village. Go to the town of North Castle's website, North Castle,
Okay,
and they videotape every meeting. You can click on the meeting, you can go
Southhold
down their
does
agenda
it
and click on the
too.
parts of the agenda, and it goes to the video.
The school district does it.
It's the best program I've ever seen.
take a look
Yeah.
at Southhold, take a look at North Castle,
Well,
take a look at
something in there.
Wellington,
North
Florida.
Castle,
North Castle, Village of North Castle, New York.
that's here on Long Island.
No, sorry, Westchester.
Westchester,
Westchester.
okay, that's great, I'll call
Yeah.
them, I'll
I
see
think
who
we
does
should get
that.
It's a great system. Take a look
They're
at
a
it.
good system, I'll find out
They
who does
probably
that.
just have a vendor that does it all.
Yeah, I'm sure,
That's
and
what it
I'm
is.
sure it's on the website, Howard.
It's,
Ryan.
it's
I saw it all
connected with
ago.
something called Agenda Manager, and there's several different companies that do put this program out.
All right, let's
And
look at it.
you have the agenda and it
The other
corresponds
thing is
with
we're
that.
going to go into executive session, but I do want to discuss Steve Leventhor's legal fees and if we're going to continue with this lawsuit. discussing the
Wait a
taxpayers.
second, time out, let's talk that in executive session.
I just said, we're
Oh,
going
yeah.
into
Well,
executive
yeah,
session,
that's
but
what
we're
we're
just,
talking about.
right, we're gonna be discussing that in executive session along with the Jana case and other cases, so the public understands. I believe there was,
Which one do you know?
the storage fire as well, we'll be discussing.
Well, that could also be done in executive session.
We'll be doing that.
Or it doesn't have to be.
We
It's up
don't,
to
I
I
don't-
guess here we could speak openly if
Yeah, I don't
we'd
think you
like
did.
to, but.
Look, for everyone who's not aware of it, we were using a company out in Suffolk County to store our files, not all of our files, but a large number of them, maybe 200 boxes. That company, unbeknownst to the board or anyone in Manorhaven, transferred ownership to another company, and that company transferred all our materials to a warehouse in Brooklyn, as it was?
Brooklyn, New
And
York.
the warehouse was the subject of a very large fire. It was very well publicized. Everything in that warehouse was destroyed,
January 25th.
our files as well.
What date?
January 25th, 2015.
So we were getting strange bills from this company. We didn't know about the fire. We didn't know that, whether we had files there.
Not to interrupt you. January of last year?
Yes,
And when were we notified that we had?
November.
November.
And we've been paying storage fees
Well, very,
on
very
that
strange
every-
amounts, even less than $1 some of the amounts, right? Right, Leslie?
Yes, and I have a file this thick, I can bring it into executive
So
session
anyway.
just to show the correspondence,
Okay.
like what's going on. with
The
it.
question really is damages, and the damages are very speculative. Obviously, copies of old bills, I don't know what the damages are there, but some of the damages are, if somebody foils a BZA application, and there are BZA files contained in this, and planning board and others. And the question is, how are we gonna, the time it's gonna take us to recreate those files to comply with FOIL, to recreate those files to comply with litigation. So the cost, the real cost is in time, the time that we need to recreate some of these files when they become necessary. And there's a lot of files. I mean, we're starting to compile a list now, and
Do we know if there are other municipalities involved?
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot.
Has
Now,
they created a
they've
class?
settled a lot of these claims.
Yeah.
I've contacted Rosenthal, who's their Rosenberg, who's their in-house counsel. I called them like 10 times, they weren't getting back to me, I spoke to the managers over there. Finally, Rosenberg sent me a very detailed letter, and we're gonna sit down and start talking about settlement. Obviously, any settlement on the case, I'm gonna discuss with the board, But it can't be the cost of the paper in the box, because
No.
there's really a future value of time that we're gonna spend in the absence of these files. And I wanna see how the other villages value their property, but at the same time, I wanna put a time price on those boxes, because they are going to cost us hundreds of hours in the future over time. And there's a net present value, Jim will know more about that as a
The
finance guy.
31st of January.
But, So we're gonna get to a number, and I'm gonna work with the board on how we're gonna go about settling something like that. Going forward, we have this new program where
Yeah.
we have multiple backups and digital. Look, we weren't in the digital age when we got here, but I guess now we are, and hopefully this will never, ever happen again.
Mhm.
But the board did nothing wrong, the village did nothing wrong. We trusted one company, they submitted to another company. Presumably, there's nothing wrong with that either, but then the warehouse burnt out, so. The only wrongdoing I see is the fact that it took them between January and November, 11 months, to notify us of the loss of our files.
Did your agreement talk to that at all?
I'm waiting to see the agreement, because I wanna see if there's a liquidated damage provision with respect to destruction of
Probably
files.
does.
Maybe there's a stipulated amount, could be $100 box, I don't know, I didn't write the agreement. I'll tell you this, if we're storing materials, I would want a very large liquidated damage provision going forward, because if they store the files, what are we gonna do? I don't know if we can ever recreate these files ever again.
Probably not.
No.
Okay.
Okay, is it my turn? Can I say something now?
Yeah, so you're very quiet.
Okay, I'll be quiet, but I sent everybody a tentative work session of things that I wanted to discuss. Did everybody get it? Would you like a copy of it now or not?
Sure, if it's it.
I made copies of it.
I have it. If it's one you sent today, I have it.
I mean, a lot of these things we've discussed, oops, you know. Just pass it.
Oh, you got one?
I have it.
You got one? Nope. One.
Yep.
One.
I mean, some are just really very, very fast, like the first one. Apparently Leslie let me know that the fourth Monday of February, there's gonna be a planning board meeting, so we can't meet.
No, there was supposed to be an ARB meeting.
An ARB meeting?
But they didn't have enough, they had no cases, so it's fine.
Oh, so now we can have it on the, what are the two dates?
22nd.
It's February 8th is the first,
And?
and then the 22nd is. the
22nd,
Right.
perfect, okay, I thought we were gonna have to.
No, I don't think we have to change.
Then I think in March, do we wanna go to March, or do we wanna just
No, let's just,
do it month by month?
It's easy,
Okay.
right? It's the second and fourth month.
Yeah, I think in,
if
I
there's
think in
anything
March
that
there was
comes up,
something.
I will let you know.
Yeah,
like
Easter comes
email.
up in one of those, okay.
Not on Monday.
We had said that we wanted to have the Nassau County Police come and talk to us. Does anybody remember that? Do we still want that?
The Chief
Yes,
Barry?
Barry, yes, and I think.
And what do we want to ask him? What are some of the, I mean, what was the point of him coming?
I think
You
it's,
had requested that.
no,
No.
it was
I think
residents
the
had,
residents had a few questions as well.
residents wanted to ask.
They wanted
the
like a
police.
public forum. They
Right.
I
wanted
don't think they're
to,
gonna do that.
Voice some
Yeah,
complaints.
I don't think they're gonna
They're not-
voluntarily
they-
submit themselves to public
They've
question.
done it
they've done it before.
Yes.
They've done it
Well,
before.
I know,
And
I
Not
asked
the
him for
chief.
the January,
Yeah.
I asked him way back in November and December, should I try to pin him down for November,
But, you know,
January?
Basically, we all know,
Why don't we do it either for this next work session or the,
We have some rules
I mean,
though
do we really
on
need to
decorum on that.
see them? I mean,
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you gotta,
Yeah.
because it's the Nassau Police, you gotta be very careful.
I
would
think
want
the
people to be
cops are
very
more than
respectful.
capable of taking care of themselves.
I would say.
So
You
does
didn't,
that-
you didn't get that job by being, you know, a
Yeah, but
wallflower.
I just.
yeah, but my
free flow.
hope, oh, here's my notes, four notes. But my thing is, we all really have basically the same complaints as them. Right? I mean, I took notes from the last meeting when we had the vision meeting, when they started discussing, the residents started discussing. It's basically the police presence, not issuing tickets. They want more than one car, which we're never gonna get.
well, do we want that to be in public, or do we want?
Well, that's what I'm saying, I don't know, is it,
Well, it was
it's up to you guys,
discussed,
is it?
over a year ago it was discussed, and as the board said at that time, we'll schedule the police to come down.
Right.
So some of the residents.
I think
have
that
asked
some of the
me-
residents wanna voice their own opinions and
Right.
hear it directly
From the
from
police.
the police department, what they do and what they can't do.
Thank you.
I think that's what it
That's
is.
what we.
So I don't think it's gonna attack, I
No.
really think
Maybe
that
they can submit questions on cards and we could read them,
Yes.
like North Hempstead does.
Yes, we can do it that way, so this way there's no bickering back and
I
forth.
don't think
and-
it'd be bickering with the police.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you never know, who
So Leslie's gonna set a time for
The
that?
question is this during a board meeting?
No,
when
this
the
will be,
public
we'll
is
pick one of the
coming,
work
or
session
a-
dates and we'll work.
So we'll do.
Well, no,
it as a
then
work
these people
session.
can't ask questions.
They can't ask
Or-
questions.
Well, we're gonna
use
make-
one of those
Do a
days.
special
Why-
meeting,
One
special
of the-
meeting?
Yeah, and just, yes, a special meeting.
We could have a half-hour work session.
Yeah, we could have a public session and then go to work
All
session.
right.
Okay,
we could discuss
okay.
that.
Well, Leslie's gonna
Session
set up
dates,
that.
I will
Okay. The next thing I have down is the hiring of the building superintendent, the code enforcers, and the bookkeeper. just want to know, have we gotten written job descriptions of those?
Okay, yes.
And have we
Let me
advertised?
tell you that what we've done, and I'm just looking for the name of the publication, so bear with me. First of all, we have it on the
Sorry,
website.
what was this one?
That was for, part-time building inspector.
Okay, that's part-time.
That was the part-time.
Okay, so actually, I'm
Can I see
gonna,
that?
we got this a while ago, I thought it was for full-time, that's why I was holding
No,
on to it.
part-time.
Some of these positions, you gotta go through civil service, and I think Leslie, you'll agree,
Okay,
or
let
code
me-
enforcement.
Code we have to.
There's
Oh, I
two
haven't
different
seen
things.
that.
Let me talk first about,
Just briefly, because we.
let me say really fast.
We're going into executive
Three
session.
things are being done for full-time building superintendent. It's on our website. I've sent out a notice to all of the clerks. We have an association, all LIVCTA, asking if anybody knows of a building superintendent. We have a position available. And then we're putting an ad in something called Bianco tomorrow, which is called the Building Inspector Association of Nassau County. Those are the three things I've researched and know about. And we have the definition. What we as a board will have to discuss is if and when somebody calls me, what the salary is, starting date, et cetera,
Well,
et
one of
cetera.
the issues you addressed, and said you had a problem with, was because somebody looking for a building inspector job
I'm
with the
concerned.
mayor's election coming up. But why can't we do the same thing we do with Ron, give him a 2-year contract?
If that's what we decided to do,
Yeah, because that makes
we
it,
can do that,
But
right?
how can we advertise for one
Can't
and
do that
not
with
know
civil-
how
so you
much?
can't do that with
That's
civil
why
service.
we're gonna have to have.
You cannot do that with a civil service position.
Okay,
It's not a civil
now,
service.
It's not
so-
civil,
no,
it's
no,
a
no,
code
building superintendent is not off the list. That is not a competitive title, and we can ask for people to apply.
But the code enforcement is, right?
Code enforcement is a different issue. We know, and I've checked,
but
and I
let me
even,
interrupt,
Go ahead.
was Mike Abramsky, was he off the civil service?
No.
So he was building inspector, chief code
But
enforcement.
his,
But his
Building
title-
he created his
superintendent.
title of chief
What?
enforcer,
What?
so.
he was building superintendent / chief code enforcer.
Right.
Right. But the chief
So-
code enforcement part, he was just more like an office boss on
No,
top
he
of.
went out, he went out,
Yeah, yeah,
and he
yes,
observed
but,
things.
but
He
he,
wrote up a few
He's,
reports.
he's issued
Right.
tickets too.
See, I thought we were going to hire a building superintendent and then send him to code school so he could become / a code enforcer
You
as
do that.
well.
You do that.
Yeah, we just have to find out. We don't wanna get in trouble with civil service and Carl Camp and whatever, so.
Well, we already
as long
had one,
as-
so we're just just
Right.
filling and saying.
But he was civil service, so it don't.
No, he was
No,
not.
Mike was not.
Mike was
No.
not civil service.
So I think that's the way to go. Then we don't have to
Well, that's
work,
fine.
because
No,
civil
that's-
service for a code enforcer is tough.
And we can only, and we got the note back from Carl Camp, we can only hire a trainee, because
Yeah,
that's
which
what we're in the
doesn't
books
make
for.
sense.
And we don't have anybody right now who's in-house who can really train a trainee.
Exactly.
So it
That's
really
fine, too.
puts us, it really does, Jim, it's a catch-22.
now, the MAC people had come up with some suggestions, which I, have to run past Toner, was hiring a part-time code enforcer that wasn't a code enforcer, that was like a retired police officer, whatnot, but he can't issue tickets, because you have to have that
He's
exam.
gonna bring back the Greens of the run out.
Right, but that was the thing that they were just, we were
Crazy.
going back and forth about, maybe they could just make citations of what's going on out there. But I'd rather just hire another part-time code enforcer who can
Can a
write tickets.
peace officer issue tickets?
A peace officer.
So, it's a peace officer,
Yes, but I believe, based on my reading of the code,
it's not a code.
not our code, I think you need a public official, someone who's appointed by the mayor and approved by the board to issue citations.
Can the board of
I don't
trustees,
think we can use an independent contractor like
What I'm
Ron to
saying
issue
is, if
tickets.
we have a person who is our quote-unquote code enforcer,
Right.
can we supplement them creatively by using positions such as peace officer?
I don't believe so.
Because you can create a peace officer position in the village law, the home rule law allows that. And you can even restrict what they can and can't do. For example, you can draw a line right through the carry privileges. right?
Hmm.
So they
And
don't,
say
you
that
know,
they're
they don't,
not
they don't need to
carry.
have that, because
Right.
that's because that, under the peace officer law in New York State,
Mhm.
is a provision of your job,
I mean, but if they're.
unless you're a fire inspector, in which case you're not allowed to have it at all.
If they're acting as a code enforcement person, I think it has to go through civil service. And if,
Okay.
and if it's not, I mean, you got, the idea is if you issue a ticket, you gotta be prepared to testify in court on it. And you have to be really a public official to do that
Can
with
the
the color of
trustee
authority.
do that? Can the trustee issue it? No?
No.
I tried that.
Because I mean, I'm thinking if you created like a village constable position, who could write tickets for all sorts of things, moving traffic
You know,
violations.
I actually thought about that. I wonder how that plays out, it's similar to a sheriff, really, right?
Mhm.
That's- maybe carries.
Well, they have, I mean, like, you should ask Mel Nathan what he can and can't do, because that's what he is effectively for
Well, they
North
have a lot
Hempstead.
more
You
positions
get sent to an
available in the
academy.
town of North Hempstead.
Only if they carry. Only if
But
they
you-
carry.
but
they
you
have to go
can't-
to
They
the
don't carry
academy.
in the town.
Yeah, but the town of Hempstead, you're
Okay.
saying, has more positions, so why can't we create them?
Well, civil service has to allow you to do it. I would suggest that perhaps I set up a meeting for the mayor and maybe Mr. Toner to meet with Carl Camp and plead with him.
Kevin Lang
It's
is
from the-
the
from the
fire
union?
marshal.
No,
Maybe
Carl
you should
Camp
have
runs the civil service.
You got more to
But
something.
that's what I meant.
But
And
he's still-
civil
he's still
service
Nassau County
sent us a
Fire.
letter saying in 2000,
He's a peace officer.
early
but he's-
2000,
Because he's a fire
a
marshal.
former
he's-
administration had said we only want,
That's what I'm wondering, why does she?
We only want
Trainees.
trainees tonight.
right, and then
Okay.
today,
Well, could we change the code then?
it's not the
Nassau County Fire
code,
Marshal's
it was
office allows it.
in dealing with civil service, and
This is
Deborah
what happened.
Boyd,
Yeah,
wrote back
Now
from,
Lincoln is a
from civil service
He can write-
that code enforcement officer is a competitive class position. You must make the appointment from an existing eligible list. As far as hiring a code enforcement officer versus a trainee, if Mr. Camp told you that you will need to hire a trainee, then you will need to address that issue with him. I suggest you either write in or have your mayor contact Mr. Camp directly. I've already written that letter to him, I got the
Yeah, I think
answer
we can
back,
meet, we can try
and
to-
so I would say, meet with him, find out what our options are. He's the only one, because otherwise the village is in for potential
Well,
big
I gotta ask you a
fines.
question, and this is not a slight of Kareem at all, but why isn't Kareem in a position to find another code enforcement person?
We're gonna discuss that in executive session.
Anything-
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I have a lot to say about that too. But also, one more thing. There was one other thing that I just wanted to mention too, that should be part of this whole code thing. One of the, when I was going around on Saturday, one of the neighbors let me go in their backyard because they were complaining about a tree. Not that I had anything to do with it, but I went back there just to see what was going on. As I was back there, I noticed in the backyard, nobody noticed, even the neighbor didn't, the homeowner didn't notice. In the backyard, behind them, there was this structure. It was like, stairs that went up to this deck that were like, they had like, wood planks. So you couldn't go up the stairs because they were dangerous.
Oh.
Now, the only way you could see it was from this person's backyard. You could not see it from either side of the road. You literally had to go into the backyard. So I said to Kareem, well, now what do we do about this? I saw it.
It's in plain view of the property that you.
Right,
you're-
but they
you're-
let me, but now, what my whole thing was, I said to Kareem, now, if this woman didn't allow us to go in her backyard to go look at the tree, we weren't even looking for that. What other structures are in people's backyards should be condemned? I mean, that thing was like, you couldn't, so my
She's
thing
gotta
was,
issue something.
there's one more thing I wanted to add. My thing was, could we have, I don't know if it's a violation of people's privacy or whatever, but could we have a yearly inspection of people's property all the way around?
People don't have to let you on their property.
No.
And you can't get on their property
Okay,
unless.
just,
They
no,
Without
don't
it's
have to
something
let you
that
in
Without
popped-
consent or a warrant.
Right, it's just something that popped in my head.
Okay.
Okay.
But in this instance, you had consent to be in there.
Yes,
The-
he's doing something about
The
it.
thing was in plain view, and there's no legal liability there.
But like I said-
If I report something to Kareem because I was on a fire call, he
Right,
can act on it, because he
Right.
got reported
Okay.
to.
I was just saying, it was
We
just,
have that.
I'm sorry.
You can
That's
say
fine.
that.
that was my last
Well,
question on
One quick
the.
thing, I like a lot, I mean, I read all the emails, one thing that Maria's been asking for quite a while is the overtime report that the accountants have filed.
Oh, yeah, I just
We
had that on my
still don't
thing.
have that?
Okay.
Are we going to
Yeah.
executive session?
Yeah, we are. We need
Yeah,
to
so
go into
somebody's gonna have to do a
executive
motion.
session, so.
Okay, wait, let me just see something that's in, yes, you're right.
Motion to go to the bathroom
I
before
have
we
it,
go
but
into the
I
office.
printed this too small, I can't see it.
The other one was Castella's letter.
We're gonna come out with section of
Yeah,
leaves.
well, when I ask again in the executive session, we'll see that.
Well, Leslie could just, copy that for us, so we can all see it.
That's all it is. That's
I
it.
just, it's so small, I couldn't read it.
Oh, it's, everybody?
Yeah, you got it.
Oh, okay.
It's the same, I just can't see
When
it.
did that go
Oh, that
out?
was a while
They're
ago.
cheaters.
That's why they call them that.
Yeah.
now, I
That you
guess.
send me up or email or
I
no.
need these,
They're just like $8 at Rite Aid.
I need this.
All right, can I just go to a few more things that I had on my list?
This thing.
Everybody.
Okay, go ahead.
I know we talked about sewers, we sort of went off. I've been down there, you know, like every other weekend because of the stoppage on, Manorhaven Boulevard. Great.
Yep.
I know that you want to do an overall, but can we just hire someone to see what the problem is there? And I think it's very important to get this settled before Nassau County comes and does our road.
No, I agree with you, I agree,
And I don't know what a camera would
They
do.
suspect another break.
I know.
This happened, I believe it was last year,
Can we fix
there
the
was a
break?
break, yeah, it's
How do we
repairable.
fix it?
They would have to dig up the
We'd have
road.
to count it first.
That's
They have to
exactly
camera
what
it
I'm
located,
saying.
but I don't, of course, we're not gonna let them just dig up the road, and I'd like a camera, that's why I was suggesting purchasing this camera.
But we're not, I mean, are we,
If we're spending $1,500 every time we get them to camera it, we should just buy it.
We should just buy it.
but do we
Chris
know
is-
when we look at a camera
Chris
what's
knows what
going
he's
on and
doing.
everything? Are we,
Yeah, I've watched them camera my own sewer connection
okay.
because I had to put a sleeve in it and
And we can't just hire
crystal
somebody
clear,
to.
but you could see where the tree roots came in. You could see the
So we
broken.
can hire somebody,
Yeah.
we're gonna be paying $1,500 every time for them to
Okay.
camera
All
it,
right.
then
So let's
we
get the
could
camera.
purchase the camera,
Let's get
own
that
the
settled.
camera,
Okay.
and Chris is qualified, working for the Port Washington Sewer District. He can camera the lines, so.
Okay, so now I'd like to just make a very short report about my area, which is the business and the vision report. And,
Okay, and right after this, we're gonna go into.
yeah, but I mean,
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm liaison, right? So I'm just,
You have 6 minutes.
okay, thank you. Several things. One, Jim and I went to see Delia, and I had all the information about the bus shelters and the fact that I wanted them and everything, and I had everything done. And she sat there and she said, oh, well, why are you only asking for one? Why don't we give you two? So anyway, make long story short, she has offered the fact that we could have 2 bus shelters, a couple of benches, some planters, and then I said, while we're on a run, can I get sidewalks and curbs? So I'm right now, and Sharon is helping me, make up, she wants me to have the money, how much we need, and bus shelters cost from beginning to end about $20,000. I've looked it up, we want aluminum, we don't want steel. I went to Roslyn and saw their steel bus shelters, and the foot of them are all rusting because of
It's
the
20K each or 20K for 2?
20,000 each. That sounds like a lot, but remember, we have to build a concrete,
Priscilla, where are you,
okay, so,
where are you thinking about putting these bus shelters?
well,
Where?
the first one, and the one that I see all the time, and the one I think that is absolutely important to have, is the one opposite New Ranchito. Because all the maids and everybody walk down from Sands Point, down Dunes Lane to catch the bus right there.
Not
And
just the
it-
maids, I take that bus sometimes too.
I know, that bus, that's
right
where
there.
the most
I
people that I
saw that.
see are there all the time.
Just right. I'm going to
The
the train. I take
second
the bus.
one that she offered me, I'm thinking should be outside, maybe near your area, so that people that come from
Oh, out of
Manhattan
Manhattan
Isle have a bus shelter.
I
What do you
yeah,
think?
she's talking about in front of Wells Fargo Bank.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's private property or what. I don't, you know, we have to find out where we are allowed to put one. May have to be in front of the bow tie or whatever that is.
I guess we'll have to talk about this further.
If I had to
Well,
see
I
how
know
many
that
people.
I have met with Delia in regards to, a shelter for our DPW yard, so, we're gonna have to meet with her again, so let me know.
Okay, well, she wants a
So I
price
can
because she
attend
says it's, the government works very slowly, it's gonna be 4 to 6 months before we see anything. So I just wanna warn you that this is a long-term short-term
So
item.
can we include the garbage pails in there too?
Oh, thank you for mentioning that. I went to bid, at a mid-bid meeting, and I asked what they were doing with their garbage pails. They're not gonna give us any,
No.
but she will, okay? And I want them to be the same, I hope that we all should want them to be the same as Port Washington,
I have a
so that they
picture.
all look, and is it the one that,
The new
wire
ones
ones.
that,
yeah,
that.
they're
what's her face
$800
did, Mary Ann.
a piece.
Correct.
Unbelievable,
Yeah.
and she says, and Mary Ann said, do not get the doubles because they don't work, so just get the single ones. And I had a picture of them, and I don't know why.
I have it, I just saw it actually, I just have to find it.
So,
But,
I'm getting everything for the 4 things that I told you, but the curbs and the sidewalks, I'm working with Jennifer Pines on, and we're gonna try to do that too. The other thing is the parking lot opposite, well, where the 9/11 tree is. I bought an aluminum thing so that I could test the light there. And the light does work, as long as we can get those 2 lights in the front. Yeah, but that's the double, we're not getting that
That's the
one.
only one she sent me, that's
Oh.
what Mary Ann sent me.
This is the double, this is
Oh, I
basically what it'll look like, but,
I didn't like it, but
No,
the
no,
cedar
the
ones that
double
they
is
really
no-
had
yeah.
destroyed.
Really?
They-
But they're not
that's
really
what I like.
cedar, they're
Cedar.
fake, wood
Well,
And
fake stuff.
yeah.
but
The
it's
planks, the
wood.
kids, the planks come
Yeah.
off, she.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's why
these
she's
are
changing
metal.
them.
they're, I mean, for $800, they better be good. And she said, just get the single, so I'll put that in the budget.
So I told about the lighting.
Okay, so the lighting.
Sorry, I just found it.
All right.
It's,
And I'm
um,
just gonna quickly show you what I did,
Right,
very
so-
quickly. It's a terrible drawing.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, but I did a lot of work in this.
I know, I
Take
appreciate
5
it.
minutes.
Go ahead.
Good.
So, there, if you can see here, I'll put it out.
This
where
is the
everybody can see.
gazebo?
Here's the gazebo here, right? There is a light right here
Right.
on their property, but it lights us up. There are 2 lights right here, that's the senior citizen lighting, and they light this all up. And there are 2 lights here that are not working, I don't know what's working. Right,
So you see, just need something over here, right?
and we would maybe, I don't even think we'll need it there, but if we did, then we'd only need 1 light there, that's all. And and to get the aluminums, you have to have, it's called, oh, I forgot what it's called, but it's called FC. It's candle feet, sorry. And the minimum for candle feet is 0.2 to 0.5, and if you look here, 0.2 to 0.5, even in the darkest I have a 0.5, 0.72, 1.0, 1.6, 1.1, 0.3 is, this is one of the darkest areas
Well,
now.
that's why I said, I thought
Yeah.
maybe you needed one over here. like in the
I
middle
don't think
now.
so, because these 2 aren't
Oh,
lit.
because they're not lit, they're
And
lit.
this
maybe
is a
they're covered.
halogen, and it's very bright, and it's facing right into the parking lot. So I think that this is all done, you've got the parking there,
How,
you've got
what size
everything done.
spaces did you make, Priscilla?
They're there, the spaces are
Wait,
there.
wait, oh, so we would be parking cars then?
Or whatever, I don't
No,
know.
no, no, wait. A parking,
Let me, wait,
Space is
let me
10
finish
10
before you go, okay?
it's 10 by 20
Let me go.
car.
I know that. There are 27 spaces. We don't know what we want to park there yet. I think that's up to the community. A couple of thoughts that came to me was, of course, to have trucks there, but I also thought of some other things, like people that go away on vacation or trips, and they have to have alternate street parking, and they don't have enough room.
They do that already. Ron, they go to Ron. There's a
Where?
couple of people, Ron, like during the summertime sometimes, people go away for like months at a time.
Yeah.
They've come in before and asked Ron, to park their car there.
Where?
They've asked
This
for
spot?
special permission to
Permission.
park
In that
there,
parking lot?
in
Oh,
that
I
lot.
looked at it.
Voila.
There you go.
Okay.
They already do that.
Okay.
Because I just know
Well,
because I was in here one
There was a concern at one
day.
of the meetings whether it was lit up well
Yes.
enough, but now we know it is.
And people said, no, we couldn't do it. I just want to know that, I want to be able to use these 27 spaces. When we talk to Vision, I'm really hoping to try to make this a restaurant place, and that would be, then we would use this for restaurant parking, but until then, it's underutilized, it's not being utilized. I'm going to have a meeting with Vision, and we'll discuss that.
Thank you for your, all right, I'm gonna make a motion to go into into executive session.
I'll second.
All in
The
favor?
motion has to be for a reason. right?
Yes, you have to give a reason.
Litigation.
Yes, for litigation.
Now I second.
Public, and we've done the session and leave, so.
I just want to thank everybody for coming this evening. We're going into executive session. I don't know how long we're going to be.
When we come out of the public session, there'll be a motion to return to the regular meeting, then we'll immediately conclude the regular meeting, the work session.
Drones
for the
Yes.
backyard.